next thing I want to talk to you about that we didn't really get to cover with the online webinar was really what the focus of this week is going to be. So the key thing that we're doing in this introductory topic over the first 2 weeks is really taking a big picture view of what design thinking is and why it matters. The first reflection asks you to identify whether or not you've got the skills to be a design thinker. Don't worry, it's a mechanism for helping you think. It's not a test, you cannot fail it. And it also, the reflection, in addition to asking you to focus on what it is that you want to get out of a collaborative learning network, asks you to think about what design thinking is and why it matters, and why we might be looking at design thinking in a business degree. Design thinking is often also referred to as human-centered design. And while it's very, very common for organizations to talk about themselves as being customer-centered, design thinkers very carefully think about all humans involved in the delivery of a product or a service. We use the term stakeholders, and design thinkers recognize that it's often the interfaces between the way that different people in the value chain interact and work that helps us understand where the real problems are. A large part of design thinking is about using logic, design logic or abductive logic, to overcome some of the limitations that you might find in conventional rational or strategic thinking, often also referred to as deductive or inductive logic. What do I mean by this? Let me find my pen. One of the things that we do as MBAs all the time is, oh, sorry, I'm just having trouble finding the slide that I want. There it is that we use a whole range of reasoning tasks. So you might find that you're using maths tasks. So you'll be using finance, you'll be using graphing to illustrate things, you will be using analysis tools like the SWOT or the TOWS, depending on how you deal with it. So you'll be using a lot of deductive reasoning to understand or come up with solutions. A large part of what design thinking about is getting your head around what the problem is to start off with. Einstein famously said, if I only had, this is my picture of Einstein, if I only had an hour to solve a problem that was threatening the Earth, I'd spend 55 minutes really getting a good understanding of what the problem is, because once I really understand the problem, it's only going to take 5 minutes to solve it. So a lot of what we're doing with design thinking is what I call falling in love with the problem. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as you go. Really, the process of design thinking is to bring creative and critical thinking skills together. And we want RMIT MBAs, when they go out into the world, to be known for that. They're going to have strong critical thinking logic skills, but they're going to attach to that creative, flexible skills that allow them to react to the world, to identify problems on the fly, and to come up with creative, sustainable solutions for those problems. Often I find that thinking about what design thinking is best done by recognizing what it's not. I find this particularly gorgeous. This idea that public libraries can put in these little sound pods that will make introverts who really don't want to stand out or have people notice them be able to be in a really quiet environment. It looks ridiculous. It's clearly thinking about the solution without really understanding what the problem might be. I find that kind of insane. Another great example of what design thinking is not is this excellent example that many of you will have come across on social media. The wise people at Bic at one stage decided that we needed pens for women. I mean, these really, really crack crack me up. I'm going to have to change my pen color in order to scribble on this. But look at this. Look at this. It literally has an area on it that shows you how it's got a thinner barrel, just like a little pencil thin waist. It comes with glitter. It's beautifully smooth. What is it, a shaving or a body cream product? It is absolutely bizarre. It's almost like they took their advertising from their feminine hair removal products and moved it into pens. Well, they got lambasted on social media. International Women's Day saw a whole lot of things like this. So firms that were sent boxes of pens to have a look at for International Women's Day. Watch out, Shakespeare. I've got to love that. And the guy at the end with his face and his inability to scribble because they're girly pens. Yeah, enough said, really. Design thinking is not just going straight to the solution. Thinking about sustainability, for example, and then coming up with a solar panel, a solar-powered sunbed. It's funny because it's ridiculous. But there are lots of examples that I think you'll be able to come up with as you think about your own work or life experience where the solution really doesn't fit the problem. There's a great story about the sales force at Black & Decker that when they first do their training, they put a big picture of a drill up on the board and they ask the sales force there to tell them, what is it that our customers want? And of course they're looking at the drill, and because they're salesy types, they will say, oh, they actually need a bigger drill than this, or a faster drill than this, or they need the XP55, whatever. And actually the next slide is a picture of a hole in the wall. We need to think about this. The problem that our customers want to solve is rarely immediately solved by the product or the service that we sell them. People don't want to drill. They want to hang a picture on their wall or fix a wobbly chair. People don't want a letter from their lawyer. They want legal advice. They want to solve the problem that means that they're not getting along with their neighbour, or that will allow them to get goods that are in transport taken off the ship before they expire. People don't want to sit in a classroom and be lectured at. What they want is to come out with skills or a diploma at the end of their study journey. We need to really fall in love with the problem and understand what problem is going to be our customers or our clients are dealing with in order to look at how the stakeholders together can design a solution for that problem in the most efficient and sustainable ways. I forgot that I had this. I love this example. I just want you to look at it quickly. This is an example of, again, what design thinking is not. So we look at this and we think, well, what is this fence trying to do? If we were in class, I'd get you to call out. Some of you would recognize that there's a busy road there. It doesn't look that busy at the moment, but it's, 4 lanes. It's got some trucks on it. It makes sense to slow people on bikes down as they're heading that way. But then let's have a look at it. Actually, it's not slowing people down at all. The customers don't want to be safe as their first priority. They just want to get home in time. And more thought needed to go into designing the solution for this particular problem. So we think that we're entering into a new age in which everybody's ability to innovate is going to matter as much as their ability to read, write, and do basic arithmetic. There's a couple of scientists among you, and one at least in the discussion board, who's raised the question of STEM, something I find fascinating. But I actually want to posit that maybe STEM is not enough. Being able to solve problems is really, really important, and we need to have the mathematical, engineering, technology skills to do that. But the creativity and the logic required to recognize a problem and to find creative ways to apply the technology, engineering, and maths to the solution of that problem are probably more important again. And that is what design thinking is about. The businesses of today are asking these kind of questions all the time. They're not just asking what technology is right for the job, they're asking how they might use technology in new and different ways to meet their customers' most critical and unmet needs, to expand to new audiences or new customer bases. They're also thinking about how they best and most efficiently kick things off in a new environment, something clearly with our little disaster with the webinar I wasn't able to achieve this time around. These are the kinds of questions that businesses are asking. It's 2 steps away and above how do we operate this particular program or use this kind of technology. Heather Fraser, who's a professor from the Rotman School of Business in Toronto, says, design isn't a one-shot vaccine. It's an innovation fitness program that puts an organization on the top of its game. It's not an event, it's a way of thinking, it's a way of communicating, and a way of doing every day. And this for me sums up really well why we put design thinking in the first subject in people's MBAs. I know some of you have done other subjects first, but this is why we want you to do this first and to think about this process. I think of education and study as being like joining a membership of a gym. And the best education should be a high-end gym. It should have all of the equipment that you could possibly need. It should have all the science behind what's the latest thing in your nutrition or your workout program. But at the end of the day, you have to do the heavy lifting. You can still buy a membership to a high-end gym and come out with flabby guts and shaky thighs. Let me tell you, I've done it. I've been there. At the end of the day, only you make the six-pack. And design is a bit like that. You will have opportunity to see and use a range of different tools in this course. You won't get to use all of them. More of them will come across different courses in your MBA or your diplomas. But you'll see that none of them are one shot. All of them are a process. All of them require iteration and continuous thought and application to get it right. You need to fall in love with your problem and keep working on it. Another quote I love comes from Herb Simon, who's actually a Nobel laureate in economics. He says, everyone designs who devises courses of action aimed at changing existing situations into preferred ones. Don't you love that? Going from our ordinary life through the unknown into the preferred new normal. I just love it.